Dragon Age the Veilguard will be including pronouns in its character creator. On top of this, we've also discovered that the game's director has confirmed that inclusivity was at the heart of how they developed the character creator. Before we get to this, I'd like to ask you please hit that subscribe button, hit that bell for notifications so you don't miss any of our future videos here at the Trent Report. I am joined by Culture Casino to discuss this latest revelation, regarding Dragon Age: The Veilguard. And I wrote this article up to have this discussion point. So this comes to us from Game Informer's Wesley LeBlanc. He obviously kind of breaks down the character creator that he was able to demo. And he says here that you can choose obviously between the 4 different races: elves, Kunari, humans, and dwarves. Nothing wrong with that. But then he goes on and says it also allows for more detailed looks at each and the ability to choose pronouns with she, her, he, him, and they, them separately from gender, select different body types, and more. So what do you make of them including these pronouns into the character creator here?
Well, I mean, there's a lot of things that goes into character creators. So you have to think about a lot of things because you have to decide what's going to be optional, what can be modified, whether the size, or muscularity or any of those things can be done. So they've taken the extra step here of essentially, separating sex and gender for whatever reason. Not that any of these characters, outside of humans, it would matter all that much. But the weird thing is that if you select certain characters, you're going to have more adult things that could pop up into the world, and the curiosity there would be why do all of these things and then actually include the other elements, the sexuality and all that other stuff. Is it surprising? No. All of these companies, BioWare included, have been compromised with an ideology to tear down some of the building blocks of society, whether it be in our reality here in the world or in games. And they believe that if they can push this through the games, just like with television and film, then they can get people to widely adopt it as normal.
Yeah, I think you're 100% right on that. I think that's exactly what this has to do with. It's clearly about pushing these disordered lifestyles, these evil ideologies, specifically the transgender ideology here, with pushing the pronouns, because you're going to have male bodies with using she, her. People are going to be doing that, and that's clearly what they're going to be trying to do to push this idea that men can become women or women can become men, which they just honestly that's impossible. It can't do that, and it's truly kind of twisted that these people lie to themselves thinking that they can do that. People are lying to them thinking that they can do that. And they lead them down this like slippery slope of medicalization. And it really all starts with the pronouns here. I actually included this further down in the article. I'm going to just jump down here real quick from Archbishop Sample. He has a really good paper on this. And he says, to some, supporting aspects of social transition may seem benign, even humane, such as using someone's preferred pronouns and actively affirming his or her perceived gender. However, while well-intentioned, this kind of endorsement may help shepherd a young person on a path of unnecessary medicalization. He goes on and says, social transition is often the first step towards hormones and surgery. And even goes on and says, a 2020 survey of transgender and non-binary youth found that 64% of respondents were either already receiving cross-sex hormones or desire to do so. So I think it's pretty clear here that this is indeed the first step to this. This is a gateway to kind of these hormone surgery and self-butchering that a lot of these people want people to engage in. And it's disgusting.
It's strange because at the heart of this, it always seems to be that they're involved with some kind of an outside influence. They've for whatever reason, they've been driven to reach out to actually find ways to do this, or they've been forced to, or coerced to. I mean, there's a lot of words we could throw at it, but when you look at this, BioWare clearly went out and got somebody else to have this happen, right?
Yeah, so right here we have this report from LeBlanc, or included in his report at Game Informer. He says BioWare relied on consultation to represent all people authentically. And that's after he kind of described that there's like 40 different skin complexions, and they range from youthful, freckled, smooth, and rugged. And then there's all the different kinds of skin hues and skin tones as well. And it even has a melanin slider.
Weird. So, do we
Like, I'm
know
not
who?
against that stuff. I think that stuff is kind of fine. Like having the different skin complexions, having the like all of that customization. I think that's fine because as humans we are very like diverse people, and I don't think
Sure,
there's any
sure.
problems with or even like
No,
Qunari and elves and dwarves. Like clearly those are like other diverse races as well. So
well,
they're gonna have all this stuff. So I'm
no,
not against
it's
any of that stuff.
yeah, that's not what I'm saying. I mean, it's weird that you have all of this, which would be on any character creator, as I said from the beginning. We were talking about it. You would have sliders for all these things, but they're actually going to have to include other sliders for other stuff, if they're going to drive this game through sexuality, which it seems like they are. Do we know who the consultants were?
We do not know. They don't reveal that yet. But I mean, anytime you're kind of bringing in consultants to do things like this for like being authentic, it's always like a absolutely negative bad sign. And what's crazy is that the game director has actually described himself as a queerosexual gendermancer and claimed the game was inherently queer in the past. So they already have all this stuff kind of built in, so they're just going out and kind of like funding someone else to do all the stuff that this person already believes in, and they clearly have a lot of other people that buy into this ideology as well.
Hmm. Does somebody else own BioWare now? Because all these companies got acquired by others.
Electronic Arts does.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that explains everything because one of the companies that Sweet Baby Inc. works with is Electronic Arts.
Correct.
So I wonder if you could make an assumption.
It's unclear. We don't know. We don't know if it was Sweet Baby Inc. or not. But clearly, they did have a consultant that came in and discussed this with them. We know
Hmm.
that what Sweet Baby Inc.'s goals are. They're very clear. The CEO Kim Belair has made them abundantly clear as well. And a lot of these other consultancy companies have the same ideals and goals as well. So even if it wasn't Sweet Baby Inc., we know that they're probably trying to push the woke ideology as well.
And obviously they're hypersexualizing it because I just looked at the article and
Yeah.
oh
Yeah,
wow.
so I kind of skipped over this a little bit here, but
Yeah.
they are also going to have full nudity in the character
Oof.
customization, so you can choose your character's undergarments, but also it looks like you can also do your character's genitalia as well. So that's probably why they're including the full frontal nudity in the character creator. Again, this is just something that's completely unnecessary. You don't need it at all. Like you're not going to see that in the gameplay. I hope you're not going to see it in the gameplay at least. Who knows? They have talked about having sex scenes in this game, so it sounds like they're going to be like graphic as well. So it's hard to know what they're doing because they haven't like revealed all of that stuff. But stuff like this is just completely unnecessary. It's used to desensitize people, and again kind of normalize this stuff in the culture. And we see it with the pride parades that happened all at the end of last month, where these people are just riding around on bicycles. They're doing graphic sex acts in the middle of downtown streets in like American and Canadian cities, or Canadian cities, yeah, because they want to normalize this stuff. They want people to see this stuff. They want this to be everywhere, including our video games.
Yeah, I like you said, I'm not quite sure how to respond to this other than to say this is a shame. I mean, we're a long way from, games like World of Warcraft where, everybody was covered up when you were doing your character creation. So we're miles away from that, and I don't know. For some reason, outside of maybe, adult oriented games, I just feel like this is unnecessary, especially since this will probably get an MA rating, but
Yes.
kids are still going to play it.
Oh, 100%. I mean, it's a
Yeah.
Dragon Age game. I think Dragon Age has always kind of been marketed to teenagers.
Yeah.
Um, so you definitely expect them to play that. I mean, like Grand Theft Auto obviously is the same. Like mature games and having a mature rating doesn't mean that it's not actually being marketed at teenagers and children. It definitely is. Just look at who's been playing those games in the past. It's not just adults. The one thing I wanted to kind of ask you about here, though,
Mhm.
is I actually think like a lot of this customization is pretty cool. Like
Yeah.
you look at what he's talking about here on Ears Alone. I see you can adjust asymmetry, depth, rotation, earlobe size, and even add cauliflower ear to your rook. So that's really cool that they're actually getting how in depth they are. Obviously, as they're also like you can include how bloodshot your eyes are. And whether your character will have cataracts, and even the color of the sclera, which I had to look that up. It's the white of your eyes.
Hmm.
And you can like change change that
Yeah, I
color.
mean,
Like
if
that's
it, that's
actually really cool. And
yeah,
and I think there's like a lot of well meaning to this, but then they
yeah.
take it a step further and they put in like the pronouns and they do all the gender ideology and all that stuff like that. So they take this customization that is actually like I think really cool and
Yeah.
interesting, and then they just take it that step further to push that stuff, and it completely like ruins it all for me.
Well, see, what's funny is you had levels of customization in other games, even way back when, like Fallout 4, you could really kind of lay out your muscularity and the whole nine yards, being whether you're male or female. You've been able to do this even in Cyberpunk, which was a hypersexualized game without the whole depth to it. But much like that game, I suspect that this game will have character options so that you can romance whoever you want, whenever you want, despite any outward appearances or anything like that. I mean, because that's something that showed up also in Cyberpunk and things like that too. So I don't know.
So, to that point, there is actually confirmation that all of the companion characters
Hmm.
that are going to be available in the game are pansexual.
Oh,
John Epler, who is the game's creative director, he said this: there's a difference between player sexual and pansexual. All companions are canonically pansexual. We also had the game's director, who's a man pretending to be a woman and goes by the name Corinne Bush. He made similar comments to IGN. This is what IGN's Alex Stedman reported. Bush insists that they are all specifically pansexual, and that might come through in what you learn about their backstories. And then Bush explained, their past experiences are partners. They'll reference them and indeed who they'll become romantic with. For instance, we saw Harding, which is a female dwarf. I might be playing a straight male character, flirting with her, but I choose not to pursue a romance. She might get together with Tosh, which is this Kunari character that I think is a self-insert and is gender confused. So my perception, my identity has no bearing on their identities, and that comes through really strongly. He then concluded saying, it's not until the later parts of the game where you really commit to romance and it gets pretty spicy. So, yes, the characters are pansexual in the game.
yeah. See, and this turns back to the conversation that you were having a moment ago, or the thought you were expressing, which is it's really cool that we have all this, this ability to select all of these wonderful attributes, right? The sclera is fascinating. I'm like, oh, you could look like you have hepatitis all the time or whatever. But I think that's I think beyond that, I think they may have taken it a bit too far. And again, as we mentioned, because it may be targeted at kids, it introduces the idea that eh, there's more options out there in the world than maybe biologically possible, which is a problem maybe.
That's a
Um,
huge problem.
yeah, well, I mean, there's ways they could certainly deal with it, but I have my problem with any of this is that it's targeting people who are not quite old enough to have these things pressed upon them because they're not old enough to have and or experienced enough in the world to be able to make these decisions. So I think this is only going to cause more problems than not. I don't know. Just my perception.
I agree, and I don't think this is going to slow down at all. I think we're going to see this going forward. We all remember Az's kind of rant about the pronouns in Starfield.
Yeah.
Obviously, that was Bethesda, so now we're seeing EA and BioWare do it as well. They're going to continue to ramp this up because they are trying to push this into society in every tendril that they can, anywhere that they can. We see it obviously in movies and television shows. We see it in Star Wars. We're seeing it now with EA and Bioware in video games. Like they're trying to do this on all fronts. They're probably teaching this in public schools as well. This ideology being taught there. They're literally trying to reshape society to buy into this evil ideology. I think that's exactly what they're doing, and they've even chosen a game director who buys into this, who quote unquote lives this disordered lifestyle to create this game. And I think he's absolutely right when he says that the game is inherently very queer because he's putting himself into the game, and that's that's what he's delivering. I mean, this is how they are marketing the game is based on this inclusivity and the queerness of the game.
Wow. My next question, of course, will be this, and you may or may not have researched it, but did this make it onto the curator list? Sweet Baby Ink detected.
I'm not sure if Cabrutus Rambo has put it on there yet. I know he might put it on there pretty soon. I know it's obviously on his radar. I think he's made a video about it, and he's definitely posted a bunch of posts about it. So I'm not sure if he's going to put it on either the curator or the DEI detected. I do know that the game is kind of down here. It is ranked 54th on SteamDB's most wishlisted upcoming Steam games, and it already has 40,192 followers. So there is
Wow.
some significant following. Obviously, I think that comes from the fact that there's a lot of brand recognition with Dragon Age,
With Dragon
especially
Age, yeah.
some especially goodwill from the first game. Obviously, the second game people kind of pan, and then the third game people are kind of like, I feel like it's like a mediocre, could have been a lot better, could have been a lot worse kind of thing. So it is obviously a recognizable IP, one of the bigger IPs that BioWare has. So I think that probably has a lot to do with what it has. But we'll see what happens with Cabrutus Rainbow and if he puts it on there or not.
Yeah, because I would suspect strongly that once a lot of these revelations are made, um, this will make that list because it sounds like it lines up with everything that would be required to do so, whether it be Flintlock or any of these other masterpieces.
Yeah, Sal, which we
Yeah,
just found out they laid off, like they're laying
the
off like tons of their employees
yeah,
after
that's one of the stories we'll be talking about on that Gameplace Live. But look, this is no longer surprising to me. It's almost a fait accompli, with any of these RPG style games. Anything that has this level of, customization. I think that as these consultancy groups continue to extort the companies that they're working with, and these game companies get corrupted with employees with these ideologies, I think this is going to continue.
I agree, and I think that's why we have to say no to this stuff. We have to close our wallet. We have to refuse to purchase it, even if we might have been fans of the previous games, and just kind of reject it. We got to make them pay the price. We got to do what we did with Suicide Squad, Kill the Justice League, force these companies to suffer massive amounts of financial loss, and then maybe eventually they'll figure it out. But even if they don't figure it out, and even if they don't change their ways, at least we aren't kind of harming our own psyche or harming our own mind by having these disgusting and dare I say evil messages kind of projected onto us through the game that we're playing, because that's exactly what they're trying to do. They're trying to push these messages onto us.
Yeah, it's a shame because it affects my world, the game world, which huge bummer. But hey, I still have games that I play, and as you know, the vast majority of gaming done in the last few years has been games that are 6 years or older that people are playing.
Exactly. That's what Grum says. 2-year moratorium on all AAA games. Go back and play your backlog. I think I saw a headline saying that like there's some kind of like massive amount of money that people have spent on Steam games and never actually played them. So people definitely have those backlogs to play, and I definitely think that is something that you can do instead of engaging in modern day games created for ideological purposes. So, any last words?
No, I did. Great story. This is something to definitely talking about and probably make a video about for that gameplay. So thanks for doing this, John. We appreciate you.
All right, thanks for joining me, Culture. Good luck with that gameplays, and we appreciate having you here on the Trent Report. Remember to always be charitable, especially to each other, but to always speak the truth.